I'm Richard Colwell.
Today we're doing an interview with Chief Justice Shirley Abrahamson.
Our first question is, the founders of the Constitution created a judicial system with the intention of shielding it from partisan politics through long terms. This has been sustained in a way by nonpartisan elections. How successful has the system been in doing so?
Well, originally, first of all, we're talking about the Wisconsin Constitution, right?
I believe we're talking about the Constitution of our nation as well as the state constitution.
Okay, well, the Constitution of the nation has appointed judges and by the president with the consent of the Senate. And their term is very long, life, unless the justice misbehaves, at which point the justice can be removed. But that's a long term and designed to keep justices and judges fair, neutral, impartial, and non-partisan. Now, the states made different choices. Some of the states followed the federal followed the state, and have appointed judges for life. Other states, especially in the Midwest states, in the populist era, Wisconsin became a state in 1848, chose to elect judges. Now, this was a big discussion and a big fight at the Constitutional Convention in Wisconsin. And they debated the pros and cons of appointment and election and decided that the people should elect the judges. And originally in Wisconsin, it was partisan, but somewhere down the line, and I'm not going to be able to give you the exact date, it became non-partisan. And the trial judges and the Court of Appeals judges have 6-year terms, which is the longer terms of elected officials in Wisconsin. Justices of the Wisconsin Supreme Court have 10-year terms. Now, you know that at the federal level, the president makes the appointment, and it is political. Presidents most often appoint people that have been members or active in the party's functions. And not always, most of the time. But, and in Wisconsin, people come with political backgrounds. And as you know, in recent years, there's been a lot of money put into races for judges, and very heavily identified by party, which is too bad. But when the judge gets to sit in this room or on the bench, he or she is supposed to be fair, impartial, neutral, and non-partisan, and not beholden to people who spent a lot of money electing them. And the studies show and the polls show that people think that judges do favor those who supported them financially, and that is bad. And if I stand for anything, it's that the judiciary be fair, impartial, neutral, and non-partisan, and it's up to the people of this state and the young people of the state too to make sure that we all live up to that goal.
All right, so then our next question is, how do the external affairs of the president and the Congress, like the political agenda, affect your day-to-day job?
It doesn't affect my day-to-day job, but when the legislature adopts a law, there's a high likelihood that someone is going to bring a case about that law. One, they could bring a case challenging the constitutionality of that law. And the function of the judiciary, one function of the judiciary, is to determine the constitutionality of statutes, administrative regulations. So, to the extent you got a legislature that's acting out on many issues, then we're going to get a lot of business. And in recent years, we have had a lot of business as a result of legislation. That doesn't mean it's all constitutional or all unconstitutional. But the fact that is legislation passed does ultimately affect the kinds of cases that come here. court should function free from interference by the executive or legislative branches of government. We should not be intimidated. We shouldn't be intimidated that the legislature is not going to fund the courts properly, or that the governor is going to support legislation that doesn't fund the courts or does something that's not good for the judicial system. And when I say judicial system, I mean the people of this state. And we should not be intimidated by the executive or the legislative or special interests. That goes back to fair, impartial, neutral, and non-partisan.
Can you explain the changes regarding judge recusal in the state Supreme Court?
Well, we have had statute that says you should recuse yourself and lists the times or the nature of what causes you to recuse. We have a judicial code that says you should recuse yourself when it might not be in a good position to be fair, impartial, neutral, and non-partisan. And in more recent years, on a 4-3 vote, the court said that you need not recuse yourself solely because of campaign contributions. And this has become a major issue in this state.
Okay, has the limitation that only one justice may be elected in any given year had a large impact on the composition of the court? And if so, has it helped or harmed our Supreme Court?
I don't think it's had a great effect. Sometimes because of the way vacancies occur, somebody might sit here 2 or 3 years before an election. But a lot of times somebody only sits here less than a year or a year. And I don't think it has affected the composition. I think if you had 2 people running, it's hard enough to get attention for one judicial race, let alone 2.
What are the differences and similarities between the national and state Supreme Court?
Well, the similarities are that each is the last word for its laws. So the federal United States Supreme Court is the last word for federal statutes and for the federal Constitution. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court is the last word for Wisconsin statutes and the Wisconsin Constitution. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court can also decide federal questions. So we decide a lot of federal constitutional and statutory issues. And if you don't like our decision on a federal matter, you can then seek review in the U.S. Supreme Court. But on state law, we're the last word, as long as we don't run up against the feds. And that's the similarity of function. The federal court is obviously national, and we are within our borders, just like every other state. The difference is we're an elected court, and for a term of years, the federal government Supreme Court and all their courts are appointed.
Alright, so then to end off our questions, our last question is, what do you feel is the biggest problem facing the youth today?
Growing up is difficult. You don't know what the future holds, right? And you don't even know what you want the future to hold. And so youth, as well as older people, all have personal issues, right? And personal life choices. But for the country, and for the state, and for the community, I would hope that the youth would see that they are the future leaders of the country, and that they have to become educated about our past, our history, and the present, and what they want this state and this country to look like in their future. And they have to participate and not be apathetic, in my view. They have to care. care about their home, care about their street, the neighbors, care about the city or town or village, the state, the country, and indeed the world, because we're so interrelated. So I think that this is wake up time. And let's all move. And it doesn't mean that we all have to agree, but we all have to keep talking and try and make this a better world for all of us. And each one of you can make a difference. And together, we can make a very significant difference. So I'm counting on you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming.